What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with everything that the government does, or at least we try to. But I've been watching a whole lot of debates lately, and there's been a whole lot of Israel-Hamas debates coming up lately, but we haven't seen a whole lot outside of that. And I came across this very interesting, a riveting debate, if you will, of Trump versus Biden, and it's with David Pakman, which, you know, David Pakman is a very weird character, if you will, because he is strongly on the left, and he tries to use facts and logic, kind of like how Ben Shapiro does, to get his points across. But a lot of the times he ventures way off into the woods with his arguments, and it's like, hang on, that's not even what we're arguing. He does a whole lot of straw man. But we get into this thing, and he has this way of supplanting the actual debate and inserting his own arguments that he knows he can win. It's very, very interesting to watch unfold and how he argues his points. And it's just very funny, and he says some insane stuff in this thing. And it just goes to show you how these people on the left, how they debate, and just how crazy they are. Okay, so I'm about to run the first clip. Let me get you up to speed on where we're at. Basically, Will Cain shows a video of one of David Pakman's own videos talking about Trump's NRA speech where he paused for 35 seconds. And David Pakman tries to use that pause as some sort of equivalence to Mitch McConnell pausing, like having a stroke or whatever, when he just stopped talking and just paused for 30-something seconds. He tries to say that these two are the same thing and that it's terrifying. Watch this.
Some calling it a terrifying cognitive moment.
Nation in the history of the world.
Oh, God. Even Mitch McConnell only froze a few seconds, and for people suggesting that Trump's teleprompter was glitching, regular Trump, when his teleprompter glitches, which of course you can see teleprompter there, Biden's bad for using a prompter, Obama was bad, Trump's using a teleprompter. For those who were suggesting it was glitching, normal Trump wouldn't do nothing for 35 seconds. He would rant about the teleprompter.
Okay, see, once again, straw man. Anybody that looks at that clip can tell by watching it that Trump, the music comes in, he stops talking. That was directed to be that way. That's obvious to anybody. But he comes in with a straw man saying people are arguing that it was a teleprompter malfunction. I don't know anybody that argued that it was a teleprompter malfunction. That was obviously directed to be that way. I mean, as soon as he stopped talking, the music kicks in, and you can look at Trump and tell that he's waiting for the music. He's sitting there making facial movements, looks over to the side. I mean, come on, that's clearly, and to use that as the same, as equivalent to what Mitch McConnell did, is just utter ridiculousness. Now, they go on to start discussing Biden at this point, and the vast difference between some of Biden's speeches, like this.
Anyway, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. I was just thinking, anyway, but I just, look, I mean, Putin's kleptocracy, yeah. It was in January, after being elected. late January, early February.
And other Biden speeches, like at the State of the Union and all these other places where it's...
We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts. Are you ready to choose freedom over democracy? Because that's America.
No, he's got a large crowd he's got to talk to, and it's got to be a good speech and all this other stuff. But they get into some claims that were made on Will Cain's show that Joe Biden is taking some sort of performance-enhancing drug. And once again, David Pakman supplants the actual debate because he says it's utter absurdity to say that Joe Biden is taking performance-enhancing drugs. Well, I don't know about that. I don't think that's absurd either when you look at his normal speeches versus his State of the Union speech, where he went on for about an hour or so and did pretty good. There was only like 127 mess-ups in that whole thing. For somebody that's 81 years old, that's pretty damn good if you ask me. However, looking at that State of the Union address, as soon as he gets hit with some pushback from Marjorie Taylor Greene, what does he do?
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals?
Can't say Laken Riley outright. He says Lincoln Riley, which, you know, come on now. That's an obvious old man slip up. Sure, give you that one. But then to go on to say, oh, look at how many thousands of illegals have killed citizens. Like what? What do you mean by that, Joe? Thousands of illegals? Okay, so how come you're not doing something to stop that? It's just utter ridiculousness. But then David Pakman goes on to try to supplant the debate and push on some ad hominem BS onto the debate to where, oh, if you don't say this one thing, you're in a cult. Watch.
I'm willing here to stipulate that Joe Biden is not as sharp as he was 10 years ago. I've said it. If you look at the Paul Ryan debate where he ran circles around, I'm ready to stipulate that. I would have preferred someone else as the nominee. I'm wondering if you're ready to say the same about Trump compared to even 2 years ago and 4 and 10 and 12. If not, you may be in the cult, my friend.
It's just outright hilarious. If you're not willing to say that Donald Trump has some cognitive decline, you're in a cult. Huh? Of course he has some cognitive decline. He's 77 freaking years old. Now he's trying to get around the fact that he is promoting Joe Biden as still cognitively there when Joe Biden does stuff like this.
My administration is working around the clock to free the remaining hostages, just as we have freed hostages already. And here with us today is Hirsch Goldberg Poland, and is still, he is not here with us, but he's still being held by Hamas. He calls the erectionists who stormed Capitol Hill patriots. Let me ask you, what do you think he would have done on January the 6th if black Americans had stormed the Capitol?
We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots.
And when I was vice president, things were kind of bad during the pandemic. And what happened was, Barack said to me, go to Detroit and help fix it. Well, poor mayor, he spent more time with me than he ever thought he was going to have to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Anybody that looks at Joe Biden with a rational, logic-based thought, just looking at the guy, can tell he's too old to be in this position. He should not be running for president again. He won in 2020, and we all know why he won in 2020. I made a video on that. It's called the Shadow Campaign. He didn't actually win, and that's something that Democrats have actually lost. They no longer try to win the argument. Just look at Joe Biden's campaign. The only thing he's arguing about is Bidenomics is working, which it's not. The economy is falling flat right now, and abortion. That's the only things he's arguing on. Abortion, really. A Catholic, quote-unquote devout Catholic advocating for abortion. How does that look to the normal American people? How do you think that looks? That doesn't look very good. To be a Catholic and still push this abortion narrative. Now, there's a lot of people in this country that think that women should have some access to abortion. But you know what is scary? Is something that RFK brought up in his interview with Tim Pool, that his position on abortion changed once he realized that 90-something%, it's a high 90%, I don't remember the exact, I think it's like 98% of all abortions in this country are elective. That's a scary thought. And once you realize that there was no reason to kill the baby except for the comfort of the mother, once you realize that, then you change your position, just like RFK did. Yeah. He says, quote unquote, the state has an increasing concern throughout the pregnancy of the woman. As you know, the longer the pregnancy goes, the more and more the state should get involved to stop an abortion from happening to protect the life of the baby. So then David Pakman goes on to, with some sort of weird appeal to authority argument, that he's talked to some psychiatrists that all say that Biden is declining, right? Like they said. He's not saying it. Wonder who's in a cult here.
At this point, I've interviewed 4 different mental health professionals. They all agree Biden is slowing down. And when you understand the things that are tough for Biden, combined with his lifelong stutter, he very quickly corrects himself when he gets a fact wrong. He shows certain signs that they say are appropriate for an 80-plus-year-old guy. The scary thing about Trump, to the professionals, not to me, this is just what they say. When Trump confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi, he didn't realize I'm literally saying things that make no sense. He repeated it, in fact, and continued on. When he regularly says Hungary has a border with Russia, or Orban runs Turkey, or Obama's president, or I defeated Obama, or when he doesn't realize it. And that combined with what are called phonemic paraphasias, where he glitches and can't get a word out, and then white flags like the infamous Saudi Arabia, and then he moves on to something else. That's concerning the mental health professionals I talk to, and I have to go by the professionals because I'm not one.
I have to go by the professionals because I'm not one. You know what? If you were to watch one of my videos that I make, I'm only 43 years old. I make slip-ups I just made a slip-up, damn it. I make slip-ups all the damn time, right? So Trump is naturally going to make a slip-up or two here and there. But you know what? Talking all the specific individual slip-ups that Trump made were very spread out, by the way. Those come from totally different speeches, but you can put together in a single week from one speech of Joe Biden major slip-ups, and Biden does the exact same thing, but you don't hear David Pakman arguing the same about Joe Biden. It's all very one-sided when it comes to David Pakman here. And Will Cain, honestly, in this debate, I watched the whole thing. He does not do a very good job of defending his side or defending Trump or bringing up the exact points I'm making, because Will Cain brought up none of these points that I'm making here, that David Pakman uses appeal to authority and tries to use this weird, you're in a cult if you don't say these one things type of arguments to shift the debate over. But, at one point, Will Cain finally does get on after they start talking about the performance-enhancing drugs and all this other stuff, that Will Cain finally gets a little bit aggravated and tries to explain to David Pakman that, no, he's not the one making these arguments. You're just straw-manning all these arguments based off of other people's statements that Will Cain has interviewed on Fox News and other Fox News anchors, stuff that they have said, trying to spoon that onto Will Cain's argument and just totally whitewashing over what Will Cain is trying to argue. Check this out.
Once again, though, David, you're using specifics, and I appreciate your use of specifics on certain things, but you've put into
I'm using specifics.
But you're planting the debate. You keep planting my position.
But then give me the drug.
I can't diagnose Adderall.
You mentioned Adderall.
No. You're building assumptions on top of one another with me. For example, I haven't made the contention that he has dementia because I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose him. But I can also look at him as a common sense human being and go, something's not right with Joe Biden, whatever it is. Then you use my assumption that I said dementia or whatever else it is, and
you said
then
Adderall
use that as a way to say there's no performance enhancer that could solve these specific things that you made as part of the assumption.
Here's what I think, Will. I think the Biden cognitive decline story is a loser for the right, and this conversation is proving it. I'm willing to leave it there.
So now, once he realizes that he's on the defensive and that he's made a mistake here, he's like, oh no, I'm willing to stop this right here. And he says it's a losing argument. This is very interesting. Is that a really a losing argument for the right? That somebody who should not be in the position that he's in, somebody who's clearly in cognitive decline to the point to where he can't make rational decisions, he can barely talk, he can barely get off of stage, he falls upstairs, which, it's understandable to a point, but he does it so often. That's the concerning bit. This guy is getting way too old, and David Pakman just doesn't want to admit that. Once again, he'll say, oh yeah, he's got some cognitive decline. Huh? He's cognitively impaired, and that is clear to see. And he's trying to tell you that Trump is mentally unfit for office. Huh? Have you watched any of Donald Trump's speeches? Or are you just making this up because you see a clip of a few Donald Trump slip-ups, but you haven't seen any Joe Biden slip-ups? Because, boy, do I have something to show you.
He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it.
Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers.
For two reasons. One, it's an impact the decades are making, because inaction there was inaction with the Department of from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa. The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, the idea that.
Okay, so then David Pakman goes on to make one of the most egregious statements in this thing. It's a clear confirmation bias. He obviously doesn't look at polls, doesn't watch the news. I read a lot of news. I see nothing but the news. I've been radicalized, if you will, by the news against the corporate press. I can't stand the corporate press and all their lies. They're going against Trump, so naturally, me seeing all the lies of the corporate press, I'm going to defend against the lies. But it just so happens to be that I'm defending Trump. I'm not a Trump ally. You guys know that. I've said I'd much rather Vivek Ramaswamy get up there, but that's not going to happen. We don't have any other choices. It's Donald Trump or bust, or Joe Biden, right? Like, nobody's going to vote in RFK Jr., and I don't think I would vote for RFK Jr. now that I've seen some of his positions on certain things. I can't get behind that guy, so what am I left with? Donald Trump. He's made a lot of mistakes. He did a lot of things I don't like. However, the economy was great under Donald Trump, and he had a decent foreign policy strategy. People tried to take down his foreign policy as some sort of muddling through foreign policy. Well, I don't know about that. Look at the Abraham Accords. He had 4 different peace deals in the Middle East. The Middle East was stable under Donald Trump. How are you going to argue against that? And people, the only argument I hear from people against, like, the Abraham Accords is it left out the Palestinians. And they try to blame Trump for October 7th. That's about an insanely absurd argument, because why the hell would actual legitimate governments negotiate with a terrorist organization to bring some sort of peace deal when this terrorist organization, their whole reason for existence is to destroy Israel, right? Why would they go into some sort of peace treaty being a terrorist organization? And then why would you put any sort of faith in their word, even if they did? So leaving the quote-unquote Palestinians out, who overwhelmingly agree with October 7th, agree that Hamas should be their government, agree with getting rid of Israel from the river to the sea, which is a call for genocide, even though a lot of people on the left, they'll get out there and say, no, that's just so Palestine can be free. Yeah, but it's at the cost of the Jewish people. But like I said, let's get back into it. This is where David Pakman is absolutely wrong.
Okay, I disagree, because I'll tell you this. We're talking about the average independent out there. I actually think it's one of the most important voting factors for the average independent. That they see what's going on with Joe Biden, and they sense a lack of competency. I don't mean in just intellectual failings. I mean age-related decline.
Why isn't it showing up in any poll that is a major concern for independent voters?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. By the way,
maybe it's not.
Well, I mean, maybe it is. David, let me ask you this.
Okay, so I thought that was quite the absurd statement that how come this isn't showing up on any independent polls. Here we go, y'all. Yeah, I brought the receipts. Biden's age and fitness top the list of voters' concerns poll finds. The latest NBC poll shows 76% of voters are concerned about Biden's age, compared with 61% who have concerns about Trump's legal challenges, not his age. 3/4 of voters, including half of Democrats, say they have concern about President Joe Biden's mental and physical health, according to the latest national NBC News poll. That compares with 61% of voters who have concerns about former President Donald Trump's multiple felony charges, and less than half of voters who have concerns about his mental and physical health. Quote, I think that Biden's health and age kind of get in the way of his ability to be a good president of the United States, said a female Democratic poll respondent from Wisconsin who said she voted for Biden in 2020. She declined to share her name. I wonder why that is. Here's another. Another major poll shows the vast majority of voters don't think Biden is physically fit to serve as president. As 81-year-old Democratic President Joe Biden continues to dominate Democratic state primaries, poll after poll shows the vast majority of U.S. adults and likely voters think he's either too old or not fit enough to serve another 4 years. A poll released Sunday by YouGov/CBS News revealed that just 26% of adult respondents said only Joe Biden has the mental and cognitive health to serve as president in 2025. Trump, by comparison, received 43% of the vote, while 25% of respondents said neither. The New York Times Siena College released results from a similar poll on Sunday as well, revealing that 72% of its likely voter respondents either strongly or somewhat agree Biden's too old to serve an additional term. What that figure was inflated by, conservative respondents, more than half of all Democrats surveyed felt similarly. Here's another. More people concerned about Biden's cognitive health than Trump's. More Americans are concerned about President Biden's cognitive health than former President Trump's, dealing the latest blow to the White House as it seeks to fend off attacks over the president's age and ability to do the job. A poll from NewsNation/ Decision Desk HQ released Thursday found more than half of voters, 52.21%, said they were very concerned about Biden's cognitive health affecting his ability to serve another term, while only 38.22% said the same for Trump. Additionally, more voters said they were not at all concerned about Trump's cognitive health at 22.91% compared to Biden's 13.19%. Here's another. Overwhelming majority of Americans think Biden is too old for another term. poll. An overwhelming majority of Americans think President Joe Biden is too old to serve another term, according to a new ABC News iPost poll. According to the poll conducted using iPost Knowledge Panel, 86% of Americans think Biden, 81, is too old to serve another term as president. That figure includes 59% of Americans who think both he and former President Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner, are too old, and 27% who think only Biden is too old. Here's another. Less than 35% think Biden has mental sharpness for second term. On mental acuity, 94% of Republicans, 69% of independents, and 21% of Democrats said Biden lacks the sharpness to be president. Who is in a cult here? Yeah, 94% of Republicans, but only 21% of Democrats. That's a vast disparity in the amount of people who think Biden is too old versus Democrats. Just 32% overall think Biden has the mental sharpness it takes to serve effectively as president, down steeply from 51% when he was running for president 3 years ago, ABC's Gary Langer notes. 54% think Trump has the needed mental sharpness on physical health needed to govern. Just 33% think Biden, age 80, has it, versus 64% for Trump, who's 76. Yeah, this is an older one, by the way. 58% of Democrat-leaning adults want to nominate someone besides Biden. 58% want to nominate somebody besides Biden. That's crazy. These people are the ones in a cult, but I'm not going to say they're actually in a cult. I think they're just misinformed. I'm not going to get out there and say they're in a cult because that's quite ridiculous. But to be that misinformed, right? Like David Pakman saying, oh, how come it's not showing up in polls for independents? Well, I think I just proved that wrong, and I think I just proved his confirmation bias on that, and I think I just proved that he doesn't read the polls, he doesn't read the news. He only gets, I guess, his news from skewed left-wing sources. Right? Like most of my news that I present on this channel come from either centrist sources or left-wing sources. I don't want to read what the right is thinking. I could care less about what the right is thinking. I get my news and then I fact-check to see if the corporate press is freaking lying, because 90% of the time the corporate press is either lying outright or they're skewing something in a certain way, adding adjectives to words to push the narrative that direction. And I don't like that at all. I don't think we need to be nudged in a certain direction on what to think. If the news would just bring the facts instead of bringing the drama, if you will, that would give the corporate press a lot more credibility, and places like CNN wouldn't be seeing the lowest numbers they've seen in 30-something years. Yeah, there was just a poll came out, and the confidence of CNN to be the most trusted name in news, yeah, they're full of shit, basically. And people are starting to see that, given the ubiquitous nature of facts these days, that we can go and just fact check these people, and they think that people aren't going to fact check them, right? People are starting to wake up and see what is actually going on. It's getting harder and harder for left-wing individuals to try to prop up the Biden administration. People like David Pakman, who otherwise would be a normal guy who tries to use facts and logic to buttress his arguments, to try to fortify his arguments, where now he's having to skew things in a certain direction. He's having to mislead the debate with ad hominem attacks and straw man attacks and all these other just skewing points, if you will, to try to force the debate to go in a certain direction to where it would be more advantageous for him to argue certain points, like with the whole thing about the performance-enhancing drugs, right? Like Will Cain absolutely wasn't arguing for that. He was only arguing the statement that David Pakman made about the absurdity to think that Joe Biden is on performance-enhancing drugs when he does these debates. I don't know, but if you watch Joe Biden's speeches, some of those speeches he's clearly struggling hard to get through. And then other ones, like the State of the Union speech, that he's not struggling so hard, and he seems mentally aware and mentally focused on exactly what he's doing and what he's saying, and only has minor slip-ups with words. And, that was another thing, him talking about Joe Biden's lifelong stutter. Huh? What do you mean, lifelong stutter? How about go back and look at some of Joe Biden's speeches, like this one.
The issue of immigration. Is there a Democratic Party position which accommodates the need to stop illegal entry, punish people who hire people at cheap wages illegally, and also gives hope to people who live here illegally and people who want to come here right now? Is there a possible combination that hits all those points?
I think there is. And I think that the McCain-Kennedy bill, Kennedy-McCain, the Specter bill that came out does it. If you take a look, Chris, at what Frist is talking about, only enforcement. The enforcement provisions that sit inside the Specter bill, the McCain or the Kennedy-McCain bill, there ain't a dime's worth of difference to them. They're the same amount of money, 12,000 new border agents.
Think they work?
I think they will work better if they actually, in fact, do it.
Can you scare an employer in this country, whether he's an agricultural worker or a housewife, into not hiring an illegal because the punishment's so high that if you get caught,
yes,
it's a huge embarrassment to your family, and you may just get hit with a fine that'll kill you?
Absolutely, you
can do that.
And that's what we should do. Well, I think we should do that.
Because you can't catch everybody.
You can't. No, you can't. And the last part of this is that the Democratic position also recognizes you got 11 million illegal aliens here. They have to have a way to earn their way into the deal. This is an amnesty. They're required to take 11 years' worth. They pay a fine. They got to learn to speak English. They got to pass tests.
I like the English part.
Yeah.
I like the English part.
By the way,
if we want the problems of Canada right now, keep encouraging people to keep their foreign language. English is going to unite this country potentially. It always has in the past.
I can't think of a country that has two languages as their accepted languages that is doing all that well, including Switzerland and or Canada.
It divides us. Yeah. You can't talk to each other. Anyway, thank you, Senator Joe Biden.
Where he's clearly talking, he's clearly not stuttering, and that was from the early 2000s. That wasn't that long ago, right? Like maybe 20 years ago. And that's just a guess because I don't know exactly when that came up. But Joe Biden was still a senator, so it was before 2008. So it was the early to mid 2000s. Yeah, that's cognitive decline. That's what we're talking about. When you look at old speeches like that, and then look at some of his newer stuff, yeah, we can see a major disparity in cognitive function there. And us pointing that out is a losing argument for the right? Huh? He's clearly gone, y'all. But I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. I think I've made my point quite clear. And y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.